Hey everyone. Welcome to Dangerous Werewolf. Are you brave enough to step into the perilous world of werewolves with me? Here, we'll uncover the secrets, face the fears, and explore the thrilling and dangerous aspects of these mythical creatures. So hold on tight and let's start this wild adventure together. Chapter 12 Amber. As I was walking to school like I usually do, I thought I should text Alex AS, see what he's doing. Me hey. Happy it's Friday. Alex, totally. So I was wondering, do you have any plans for this weekend? I stopped walking and looked down at my phone in shock. Was he really gonna ask me to hang out? Wait, it was probably so we could work on our project again. You are so stupid. Jackie laughed at me. Of course he would want to hang out with us. Hurtful. I complained while she laughed at me again. No, not yet. Why, Alice, I was wondering if Alex and I'll ask you in person. Me okay. Alex, how do you usually get to school? Why is he asking me that? I wondered. Me, I walk. And I'm walking right now. Why, Alex, where you at? I'll give you a lift, me okay. Cool. I was actually walking towards your way. Why did I just tell him that? Now he probably thinks I'm some sort of stalker type crazy person. Alex, I'll meet you. Along the way, I guess. I smiled to myself and kept on walking so I could meet him halfway. We get to ride in his car. Jackie screamed. I jumped, not really paying attention, and her loud screech kinda scared me a little. Please, warn a person next time. I scowled. Sorry, she giggled. And I'm kind of excited too. Kind of, she asked. Okay. Maybe a lot. I smiled as I kept on walking. That's what I thought. I rolled my eyes and cut it off with her when I saw Alex's familiar Jeep heading down towards me. He stopped in front of me and stared at me the entire time I was getting into the Jeep. I put on my seatbelt and saw he hasn't moved, and he was still staring at me. I gave him a small smile. So, are we going? He shook his head as if he was trying to clear his thoughts, and I let out a little laugh. The car ride was kind of silent, but it was also very tense for me because he asked me about where I lived. What was I supposed to say? Oh yeah, I live really deep in the woods at a house where a bunch of people live at the house. And we are all werewolves, by the way. Just thought I should let you know when you asked me where I lived. I thought I should try and change the subject somehow. So what was it you wanted to ask me in person? I asked as I watched his face flush a little. He let out, Amber. I was wondering if you would like to go out with me. Like, on a date. And as his voice faded and he looked really nervous. He looked so cute being all nervous and whatnot. I laughed at his nervousness. That sounds fun. I'd like that. Alex. I saw him smile as we pulled into the school. And after he cut the engine, he looked over at me still smiling. But what was that last question? I sat back and watched as his smile fell and he froze in his seat. Did I saw something wrong? I was also wondering if you'd go as my girlfriend. He asked, sounding more confident. I let out a small possessive growl. Well, more like Jackie did. Gosh, she is so weird. I thought we already were, I said, smiling like crazy. In that case. He trailed off smirking. I looked at him like he was nuts. In that case what? Before I could ask him anything, his lips were on mine. And let me tell you, that kiss was amazing. It felt like the 4th of July. Hell. It felt like that times 10. I felt sparks everywhere, and I was getting addicted to the amazing feeling. But he pulled away and I whimpered a little. He smiled one last time and we had to get going to get to class. I was sitting in English thinking about that kiss. It was heavenly. I was so excited to go to history next hour and get to see Alex. But Ms. Hemsway, some random name lol, seemed like she was taking forever. I swear, English was her life. And I'm not talking like some normal English teacher loving English. I'm talking like some crazy, mental person loving English. I'm pretty sure if she could live in an English textbook, she would. Yeah, that crazy. Soon enough the bell rang, and I darted out of class to go to my locker to get my history textbook. Hey Amber. I heard a deep sexy voice as I closed my locker. I looked up to see Alex smiling down at me. Hey. We started walking to class, and as we're halfway there, I felt a spark ignite in my hand. I looked down to see Alex holding my hand, and I looked back up, not being able to keep the smile off my face. We headed to our history class, and our teacher started talking. Today is a work day, so I would like all of you to gather your stuff, and we are going to be moving into the library for the next class periods. He said, grabbing his bag and files. Sweet. Brandon yelled as he high-fived his friends. I rolled my eyes. Guys are so easily entertained. Got that right. Jackie smirked. I took my seat at a table in the library and logged on to the laptop I grabbed. Shall we get started? Alex asked, sitting next to me. I smiled at him. We shall. My breath hitched as he sat down because his knee was touching mine. And holy shit, I felt sparks. I tried not to think about it too much and continued looking information up about the Revolutionary War. It says here that a result was the Peace of Paris, I said, scrolling through some historic site. It also states America got their independence, Alex said, pointing to the next bullet point, and how Britain lost the area east of Mississippi River and south of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River to independent the United States and to Spain, while Spain gains East Florida, West Florida, and Minorca. That is does. I smiled and wrote everything we said down on my paper. I'm gonna go find some books, he said before he kissed my cheek and walked over to the shelves. I blushed and continued to type until I heard someone clear their throat. I looked up to see Sadie. What was that? She asked. I looked at her confused. What was what? That little kiss on the cheek Alex gave you. What about it? I asked. I didn't really see a problem, but I guess Barbie did. He shouldn't do that. She said like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Hate to break it to you, honey, but it's not. Why shouldn't he? Because we are meant to be. We dated in the past. Okay, that part shocked me. He dated her. I felt Jackie growl, and to be honest, I wanted to rip her head off for even touching Alex. When we went to his place for the project, I had just assumed that him cutting it off with her meant like cutting ties. I mean, what sensible person wouldn't? But dated. He what now? I asked, not believing my own ears. She smirked and crossed her arms. That's right. We dated. So if you could get out of the picture, that would be great. But what I don't get is that he dated a troll. I commented in mock confusion, like I was trying to figure out an equation for string. Theory kind of confusion. I heard the table next to me snicker while Sadie gasped. I am not a troll's HH. No yelling in the library. The library unscolded. Sadie rolled her eyes and looked back at me. I shrugged and leaned back in my chair. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Would you like to be called fake plastic Barbie instead? She did her best growl and stopped off as I laughed and went back to work. What's her deal? Alex asked, sitting down next to me with a small stack of books. Just Sadie being. Well, Sadie. I laughed. He chuckled. Of course. I can't believe you dated her. His face paled and he did a double take at the girl's retreating form. Mistakes were made. I just laughed and held his hand. I just can't believe you dated a troll. He gave me a nervous chuckle and moved his thumb so he was rubbing the back of my hand. The little things he started doing were making it impossible to not be so touchy-feely in return. Same here. I don't even know why I dated her in the first place. She is so repulsive. Thank you, mate Bond. Vampire deception. I Drake Mason and EY Gwet. as an undocumented changeling and forced to code at a low-level wage. I said, faking being scared. What? He asked, his eyebrows knitting together. I took my hand away from his. That means you have troll germs. I don't think we can aid anymore. I teased. He fake gasped. You're so funny, he said, pulling me into him. We are still dating. I giggled. Okay, I said, pushing him away. Let's finish this project. He huffed but nodded as he draped his arm over my shoulder and pulled me to his side. Chapter 13. Alex. How do you describe a deep feeling of love for someone you've known for less than 3 weeks? Because I had that exact same feeling for Amber. It had been like I've known her for years now, and it was both shocking and startling. For some people, their parents would have started to get worried about things like this. Mine didn't, for the oddest reason. It seemed like they encouraged me. Even my dad, the voice of reason in our house, had been doing so. It was almost like they knew something that I didn't. But I wasn't going to be the one to complain. Sadie had finally backed off when she had tried to humiliate Amber, and making me think that she was weak. Unlike most girls that I had tried to date, not only did it not work but pissed me off severely. I had ended up making a show of telling her off in front of a startled Amber. Amber didn't seem upset. Just a little shocked and a little proud. The latter was what confused me. With that out of the way, our relationship was in full swing by the second week. Our history project went over well, and though we no longer had that as an excuse to see each other, it didn't quite stop us either. It was a very odd feeling, like I couldn't get enough of her. Hey, lover boy, you in there? Jack asked, stirring me from my thoughts. Sorry, just thinking, I replied. He scoffed. My ass. Tried daydreaming. It's what you tend to do all the time nowadays. I winced. Sorry, but this time I was. I have dated so many different girls, and although some of them were decent, I have not once felt what I do for Amber. Jack chuckled a little. I'm surprised your parents haven't told you yet. Told me what? He just smirked. Let's just say that when the truth comes out, you'll understand a lot of this. I just looked at him. Are you high? He shook his head. No, I'm just not left in the dark. And it's not my place to say what's going on. Then tell me someone who is. I nearly growled at him. I forgot to add that I've been doing that a lot recently. It's both disturbing and irritating because of it. And to top that off, Xavier has been very moody. Everything has just been very confusing. Ignoring the potential growl in my chest, I turned to see Jack pointing behind me. How about her? He asked through a mouthful of spaghetti. I turn and see Amber heading my way. I send her a smile, before whipping around to Jack again. What would my girlfriend know? He flashed me a knowing smile. More than you might think. Amber sat next to me, cutting off my response to Jack. I turned to her, and all other thoughts were lost as Amber flashed me her $1,000,000 smile. Hey, I said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Hey yourself, she said, snuggling closer to me. So when is that date you promised? I laughed. Tonight. Her face paled a little. Tea tonight? Yeah, but that's okay if you're busy or something, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. She shook her head. No, it's perfect. Can we meet up somewhere? I don't exactly think you should meet my parents just yet. I chuckled. That sounds good. 'Cause I'd be lying if I said that it would be fun to meet them. She just looked at me. How so? I shuddered a little. To be completely honest, I've dated a few girls before. Cue strange but becoming familiar growl from Amber. And far too many times I've met their parents. It's just really uncomfortable and I'm totally awkward and weird and I stopped myself. Now I'm sounding like a wuss. It's fine. Don't worry. It's also awkward for me when my dad has to. Yan oh, she said with a laugh. Her smile faded when I tensed up. The thought of her dating some other guy. She is ours. Xavier snarled out. It almost felt like he was pacing angrily, causing me to feel quite antsy. I know that, but what can I do about it? It's in the past. She is only ours. And there is no way in hell she will be with anyone else but us. I could feel him getting angrier by the moment. More possessive. It was actually becoming a little disturbing. As if sensing my discomfort, Amber leaned into me, resting her head on my chest and putting her hand on my shoulder. Yours, she whispered so lowly I almost missed it. Xavier was calm, and even happy. Immediately. What the hell? Ahem. Jack cleared his throat loudly. You to know PDA is uncomfortably awkward to watch. Really? I thought you'd enjoy the show. Amber teased him. He scowled at her. Before I could utter a single word, the bell for class rang, and we had to go. Amber pushed a piece of paper into my hand before kissing me and walking off. I watched her walk off to class, thinking to myself how much I would love to. Are you just going to stare at her, or are you going to read the note? I mean, I know she's got nice gas and all, but seriously, Jack said, chuckling. I gave him a glare, to which he lowered his gaze. I unfolded the note Amber gave me, reading an address of one of the local restaurants and what time to be there. I smiled and headed to class on very light feet. The man sighed, glancing at his watch. Where was that damned wolf? If he didn't show soon, he might have to reconsider the terms with this guy. He watched the small CAF, wondering what normal people would be doing today. Usually, he liked to keep to himself, and out of the way. His whole team did. The only thing that ever changed that was when he hunted rouges. Unlike most hunters, he only hunted the wolves that when trogoned caused problems. He had mutual respect for wolves in a pack, but they kept quiet and to themselves. He had even been hired by some packs themselves to hunt problematic rogues. Emmett hadn't always been this respectful. When his parents were killed in his teen years by a pair of werewolves, he had eventually found the wolves that had killed his parents and avenged them in the end. But what he didn't expect to happen was to end up on a pack's territory. There he found a she-wolf that claimed to be his mate. As much as he tried to fight it, he ended up falling hard for the wolf. She was his world, and he would do anything for her. And that's why he was here now. Ariel, although not that high in the pack, was still a strong warrior, and was well respected. She was best friends with the Alpha's daughter, Amber, despite her age, so she had a few benefits. They were traveling somewhere in Canada when she was sent a message from her former Alpha, saying how some rogues and hunters had teamed up and were becoming a threat to her pack. So, being very skilled hunters, they came back to help her pack. And it was also here on a personal level. The Alpha, Adam, was always nice to him. Despite his past, they had become very good friends, and he could always count on him if he needed help. Emmett thought that the fact that a pack of werewolves having a hunter as a friend probably helped matters as well. But he didn't care. He didn't give out his friendship so easily. And when he did, it was absolute. Maybe he was part werewolf for always being so loyal. He was jogged out of memory when there was a small knock on the window of his car. He looked out the passenger's window to see Thomas, Ariel's old beta. You're late, Emmett said, opening up the door. Thomas climbed in with a sigh. Well, it's nice to see you two, he joked. Emmett rolled his eyes. Sorry, Adam held me up. Thomas continued. He had me do a quick patrol run. Check for rouges and hunters. Emmett laughed a little, noticing him hesitating as he said his profession. It's all right. Thomas, I'm not a typical hunter, so I don't mind. Thomas happily shrugged it off. Adam sends his thanks and his greetings. He really wishes he could see you personally, But this team up business has got him doing everything he can to keep the pack safe. That's understandable and also the reason why I'm here. But there will be one problem with this team up crap, Immerse said. And what might that be? I will easily be able to handle the rogues. And I will handle it in the way you guys normally do. But it will prove tricky with the hunters. Thomas nodded. We suspect it's a large group on both sides. We just need help managing one while we handle the other. At least that's what Adam said. That helps. I'll get on it soon. So, besides the obvious, how's the pack been? Emmett asked, although he wasn't a werewolf. After being mated to Ariel, and after Adam had accepted him, the Shadow, Moon Pack had accepted him as one of their own, and he considered them like family. We have been good. But could I ask you a personal favor? Emmett cocked his head to the side, a habit he'd picked up from the wolves. Shoot. Amber. Thomas started with a smile. Has been growing up quite well. She's already 17, and I believe that she has found her mate. Emmett smiled. That's good news. Amber had always been the niece he never had, so he hoped he could see her again soon. But he's not a full werewolf. Tom assented in. He's not completely human, but he's not a full wolf. How so? I've kept an eye on the kid. He's good, and will suit Amber just fine, but I am curious as to how he might act as a werewolf. I don't know if he can shift, or if he even has a wolf at all. And he doesn't know anything about us to top it off, John said with a sigh. Emmett shifted a little in his seat. Okay, what do you want me to do? I want you to find out a little more about him. See what side he might get the wolf genes from, and how dominant he might be. I just want to know a little more about him if something comes up, and what might come up. Thomas let out a low growl. Adam thinks. He thinks that this group of rogues and hunters might go after Amber. If he's right, we might have one pissed off, over possessive, and at that point dangerous mate to have to deal with. Emmett nodded, knowing firsthand how messy that can get. What's the kid's name? Alex. Alex like Haas. Emmett snickered. That's ironic. What is? His last name. Like Haas's Greek for wolf. John chuckled a little, settling back in his seat. That is ironic. I'll see what I can come up with. So you hungry? Thomas shook his head. No, I, hunted earlier. Typical, it's typical, Emmett said, rolling his eyes. He got out of the car and looked back at Thomas. Well, I'm famished, so I'm gonna hit the CF over there. Thomas nodded and got out as well. I'll meet you back at the mansion. Adam's got your room ready for you and Ariel. I'll see you then. Emmett nodded, and headed in the opposite direction. What John didn't know was that he already knew Alex. Though, that was a story for another time. But one question ran through his head. How does Alex not know who he is? Chapter 14 Alex. I looked at myself in the mirror for perhaps the 100th time that night and smiled a little. I never found myself to be attractive, but I had to say that I cleaned up nicely when I wanted to. It wasn't much, but I had shaved, showered, put on cologne, and even put in a little gel in my hair. I didn't slick it back of anything, just make it seem a little tamer than its usual choppy mess. Wearing a pair of darker jeans that I typically didn't wear too often, and an untucked maroon shirt, I felt ready to go. I picked up a light leather jacket that I had found hanging in the back of my closet earlier and headed out to my Jeep. I made it to the front door before my mom did a corner. And where are you going? She asked, sounding suspicious. I'm just hanging out with Jack. I replied a little too quickly, not wanting to deal with her usual antics when I did anything regarding my love life. She shook her head. I smell you wearing cologne and you never wear a dress shirt. What's up? I was saved by a text tone. I pulled it out of my pocket only to have it snagged by her. Good Lord. She seemed too fast to be human sometimes. Mom, I'm going to be late. I protested. She takes one look at the text and raises an eyebrow. I felt like she was going to say something, but she closed her mouth, obviously considering it. She handed me my phone side. "Thanks," I said, opening the door. "Tell her I say hello," she said, smirking a little. I felt my face turn a few shades of red before darting outside into my Jeep before something else came up. When I reached the small restaurant, I smiled to myself. Amber had chosen a small mom-and-pop Italian restaurant. It was always good, but I only came here when I was on a group date or playing an awkward conversation buffer to a friend. It was very romantic and I had yet to see anyone there coming by themselves. I pulled up in front of it and paused, checking my face. Hair, teeth, whatever else I could in the small mirror. It had been a very long time since I had started to feel self-conscious. I wasn't anything close to a male model and I knew I had flaws, yet nothing ever quite gave me a reason to care. Until then, obviously. Nerves were making my hands a little sweaty and I found myself shifting a lot in the driver's seat, even though I hadn't even walked in yet. I almost found myself feeling like I had the other night after the nightmare. Why am I freaking out now? I yelled to myself, trying to calm down. A deep breath and a huff of personal annoyance later, I jumped out and headed towards the door. The night was definitely cool, helping calm my nerves and snap me out of whatever self-doubting state I was in. I was still a few minutes early, but I spotted Amber in one of the corner booths and found my feet heading her way. I only had to see and know it was her for the nerves to evaporate and the shaky feeling to subside. She smiled widely when I sat down across from her. "All worked up for nothing," Xavier mused. I tried not to roll my eyes. "I was afraid you might be late," she teased. I mockingly looked offended. "Why, I could never." She laughed. "Hey, that's my line." I smiled back, simply shrugging. The waiter came by and took our order, giving me a chance to look at her. She was wearing only jeans and what I think girls called a blouse, and I saw her wearing a couple of nice owl earrings. She was absolutely stunning. She'd look even better with nothing on. Xavier commented, "Shut it. I'm going to look like I'm crazy if I just start blushing for no reason." I said, fighting to keep a straight face. "You know I'm right. God, I wonder just how sexy her body would be. She always wears two. What's your favorite color?" Amber asked me suddenly. "Black." Why, she looked at me strangely. "Why black?" I chuckled a little cocky. "Because I look good in it." "I'm serious though." "Why black?" she cried, rolling her eyes at me. "When most people think black, they think dark and death. I don't. I think of it like a shadow. A place to hide when the going gets rough, or when you need it to escape. It also serves as an advantage to go unseen." I explained, Amber said, taking a small sip of her water. Fortunately, it was small, for she turned about 8 shades of red before nearly choking on it. "Something," I said. "You okay?" I asked, passing her an extra napkin that was on the table. She nodded, taking it, still betrayed. "Yeah, sorry. Favorite book?" "Anything with mythology and or legends," I responded, eyeing her warily. I wondered what was going through that head of hers. Why favorite movie? Top Gun. And why all the questions? Amber shrugged. I guess I just want to know more about you." "Favorite food?" "Italian," I replied with a sarcastic smirk. "Hilarious," she said, rolling her eyes. "Favorite sweet food?" "Dark chocolate." "Season?" "Fall." "And finally," she said, "if your house caught on fire, and you had to choose one thing to save, what would?" "You," I said before she could finish. I wasn't quite sure where that came from, as she did thing, and not person. It just popped into my head as if someone had said it for me. Silence. Figures. I got a sly smile from the girl in front of me. "That would imply that I'd be living with you." She got me there. Would you really mind such an idea? I asked, teasingly. The blush that rose with the question followed by a brief spout of stuttering had me grinning like a fool. So instead of embarrassing myself and her even further, I quickly changed the topic, firing all the same questions back at her. Blue, because it represents a lot, like a clear sky or nice rivers and oceans. Fall as well, because I love the color of the trees and the weather is always the way I like it. I don't read too much, but it would have to be anything with fantasy, as I am one of the few that still wishes to find her knight in shining armor. I love any and all Disney movies, and if you disrespect one, I will find you and make you pay dearly. My favorite food. Yes, I'm a sucker for pasta. I don't know why, I just love it. And I will give in to anything you want me to do, as long as it comes with a tub of chocolate mint ice cream. I felt myself laughing by the time she was finished. What's so funny? She asked. I shook my head. I guess I just think you're goddamned cute when you do. Anything, really. And that I really, really like you. It's awesome just to talk to you or even just to be with you. So why am I laughing? 'Cause I'm just downright happy. The words tumbled from my lips faster than I could stop them, yet I didn't find myself caring. I sat there, watching her cute little lips split into a large smile on her face. She was so beautiful every time she did that. I know that. Even if everything I said was a sappy mess that would have had me shaking my head otherwise, it was all true. It seemed to make her happy, and in that moment, that was all I cared about. The rest of dinner went pretty smoothly after that. We were walking in the park when it happened. I thought a small walk around would be nice afterward. Nice ended up being an understatement. After only a few minutes of just holding hands, it soon turned into a PG-13 make-out session. It was getting late, and although it was a Friday night, the park was deserted, so I didn't worry too much. I was kissing down Amber's neck, savoring how good her skin tasted. The moans that she was giving me were driving me wild. Before I knew it, though, she quickly whipped me behind her and was looking around frantically. Amber, I asked, what's wrong? I was a little startled by the quick actions, my mind coming out of a lust-filled haze. If she was a succubus, it would have explained a lot. She didn't reply. She only kept muttering to herself about how it couldn't be happening now. I was about to ask her again when I heard a twig to my left snap. I whirled to the spot, unconsciously putting an arm around Amber. Xavier was quiet, not absent, but silent. A sense of focused and deadly calm seemed to flood through me, making me feel alert yet relaxed. A strange combination that had the hairs of my skin standing on end. This wasn't going to end well. My, what do we have here? A gruff voice said. A tall, well-built man stepped out of the tree line and into the pale moonlight. He was holding some sort of hunting rifle in his hands, and it was pointed right at Amber. Looks like the bitch finally got herself a toy. He snickered. I felt myself growl loudly, and I pulled a slightly shocked Amber behind me. I no longer had the sense to ask questions, feeling detached as if I was watching myself. I wasn't in control anymore. Some kind of instinct was the instinct that felt dreadfully familiar. Oh, so you were something, he said, directing it at me. You were always the tricky case. Well, no matter. Caleb will pay well for both of your heads. As he raised his rifle, I shoved Amber out of the way, only to get hit in the side by something. I didn't feel it at first, but a searing pain came forward, followed by the feeling of some warm liquid pouring down my side. I looked down to see that the man had shot me. As crazy as it would sound, I didn't care. Amber's safety came first. The man watched in shock as I lunged at him. Seeming motionless as I grabbed the rifle from him, whirled around, and shot him in the thigh, where I know it would hurt most. Life seemed to animate back into him as he bent over, where I rammed the butt end of the rifle into his head, leaving him out cold. I knew I wasn't doing this. I felt as though I was pushed to the sidelines of my body, and I was merely a witness to what was happening. My head turned to Amber, who was looking at me in shock. There are others. You get away. While I let. It will smell my blood and follow me. I said it, but the voice didn't belong to me. It was calm, dark, and far more rough than my own. Xavier, Amber asked softly, hesitantly and uncertainty filling her voice. My head nodded, and I ran off. Xavier, I tried to ask but heard no sound. Sorry, Alex, but I have to do this, came his familiar voice, just like it used to. But I wasn't in control. I was just a passenger as my body continued to run into the woods. What happened next was only up to my imagination, as there seemed to be a deep fog in my memory. It was like when you suddenly wake up in the night and you don't remember falling asleep or opening your eyes. Just an absence of what happened in the time you weren't conscious. And then, I came out of it and found hell. There was blood everywhere. I couldn't seem to grasp anything that was happening, my mind still in a fuddledy daze. I jumped as another gun shot rang through the air. There had already been so many shots. I knew that but couldn't actively remember any. I held my side, gasping for air as another wave of pain racked my body. Being shot sucked. And it didn't seem to be a regular bullet either. Where I was bleeding was steaming, and oozing a silvery liquid. Just great. And to top it off was the fact that I didn't know where Amber ran off to. I just told her to run, but it's like she knew something. I didn't know what, but she didn't completely freak out when she saw what was happening. Not like she should have. I struggled to stand, the pain causing me to bite my lip until it started to bleed. As if I wasn't bleeding enough already. I turned around and faced the dark woods, peeking out from behind the tree I found myself leaning against. Motionless bodies lay everywhere, all ripped apart from something. I prayed to God that it wasn't me. I didn't know what happened in that blank spot of my memory. I squinted through the trees when I saw a pale shadow moving. It came closer, and I started to back up a little. I stumbled on an unseen body and fell back hard. Pain rolled through me like a burning fire, causing the edges of my vision to blur. Trying to ignore the pain, I scooted even further away. The adrenaline of fear pulsing through my body. The form stopped a mere few feet in front of me. It was a dark silver wolf, with a white tip tail and frost blue eyes. It only looked a little bigger than the ones that usually were around here. I felt fear amplify in my chest at the sight, but some small voice told me that it would be okay. That I could trust this wolf with my life, but fear had taken its firm grip in my heart. But everything vanished at the next sight. The wolf turned. It stood up and very quickly took human form. 1 minute was a wolf, then next was of a human girl. It was my Amber. And she was standing stark naked in front of me. Confusion and blood loss finally took its grip on me, and I passed out. Darkness for once, becoming a welcoming bliss. Chapter 15, Alex. The feeling of an intense pain woke me up. I was so sick of feeling pain at this point. I just wished that my body would shut up. Maybe it might allow me to heal faster, and I healed quickly in my sleep. So there you go, body. Let me sleep so I can have you feeling good again. But that wasn't the only thing. This little irritating beeping was ringing out, starting to make me feel crazy. And everything smelled like bleach and bad medicine. What hellhole did I wake up in? I opened my eyes a little but shut them quickly, the light all but blinding me from its harshness. You can open your eyes. I've dimmed the lights, a soft voice has said. I tried again and was able to open them about halfway. How are you feeling? The same voice asked. Like I was hit by a truck and fell off into the gorge below. I replied, my voice sounding very hoarse. I tried to clear my throat, but it just caused more pain. Try to take it easy. You've been through a lot. I was confused on what the female voice meant when I was suddenly flooded with the memories of what happened, right up to when I blacked out. Amber. I yelled out hoarsely. Sitting up so fast, the pain caused me to see nothing but white. Being the worried idiot I was able to look past it after a brief moment. There was a woman in the room that called the nurse in, and she was trying to lay me back down. I felt the odd sensation of taking a side seat in my own body, and I growled, "Where is she?" I heard a voice ask. I realized that Xavier had taken over again. How did he keep doing that? "Xavier," the woman said, looking us in the eye. "Your May is fine. She is safe and outside waiting for you to wake up. You have been hurt and need to take it easy. I need to see her." She nodded. "You will, but we need Alex back right now. Please." I inhaled deeply and still felt myself sitting there. "Now, Xavier," she said in a tone a little more forceful. He didn't like being ordered around in the slightest, but I felt him take another breath before letting me take control. I fell back onto the bed with a sigh. He wasn't happy, and I knew the next few hours were going to damn near kill me at the rate I was going. Finally being able to take in my surroundings, I realized that I was in a hospital-like room. It certainly didn't seem like one I'd been in before. "Where am I?" I asked softly. The woman smiled softly. "You're in our hospital. Like I said, you've been through a lot. Did Amber make it here okay?" I asked, still concerned. She nodded, her smile widening. "Just fine." "Did she bring me here?" She nodded again. "And who are you?" "My name is Christine," she answered patiently. Okay. Answer me this one question then. Go for it." I looked her in the eyes. "What the hell is going on?" She shook her head, smiling. "I don't know if that's my place to say yet. But if you're anything like us, you've already heard what I've said to Xavier." I nodded. "That's what has me pretty confused." I let out another groan, shifting a little. Damn it. All I wanted was just a nice date. It was nice. A voice in the doorway asked. I knew who it was instantly. "Amber." Christine started. "Maybe it's best if." Amber cut her off by walking up to me, tears forming in her eyes. Xavier didn't like that. For once again, he took over and pulled her into our lap, holding her tightly despite the IVs that were all on me. I didn't care. If he had more courage to do this than me, then so be it. I couldn't deny that it put me at ease. "Don't cry. Love," I heard him say. "We're okay." "And so are you." I was a bit shocked by the softness of his voice. "We were so worried. I know." That's when she looked up at me. "Xavier, can I have Alex back? Please." He nodded, feeling calm, and pushed me forward again. I figured she didn't know I was in control yet, so I took the advantage and kissed her. Xavier was happy again, and I didn't feel him fighting me again. "Xavier now," she said into my lips, smiling. I smirked. "Who's Xavier?" I teased. She smiled wider, then buried her face in my neck. I did what felt right and just held her, rubbing her back softly. She just snuggled even closer to me. It felt so nice. Someone cleared their throat, and we looked up to see a man that was at least twice my size. His presence just screamed authority and demanded respect. Normally I would have done everything to show it, but I felt nothing. I only recognized Ibe. "Daddy," Amber said, smiling at him. "Okay, so maybe I should show some respect." He nodded once at her, smiling, and then looked at me. I felt some of his power pull back. "Sorry if I made you uncomfortable. It's a habit." "I'm Adam, by the way." I smiled a little. He seemed nice, comforting possibly. "Son," he began, looking more serious. "Before you ask the main question, Do you know what we are? I shook my head. We are werewolves. I blinked, figuring I misheard him. A what? He's right. We are werewolves, Xavier said. Adam nodded. Yes, we turn into wolves. We are a pack as well if you wanted to go into the finer details. I looked back down at Amber. The Amber. She nodded. Yes, that was me the other night. I saw uncertainty in her eyes, but I just looked back up at Adam. And so are you. He said simply. I slowly let go of Amber and pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes. This isn't happening. It would have been easier under different circumstances. But we've had some complications. Before I go on, what do you know about werewolves? I thought back to a book I read once. You shift into large wolves. That doesn't always match your hair color. And you live in a pack. Yeah, that's all I've got. Someone once told me to go read Twilight if I liked that sort of stuff. But after the movie came out, I figured I couldn't without seeing a grown-up shark boy in my head, so I never bothered. Instead, I found some book about a dude who went slaying supernatural entities. Werewolves included. And what about mates? Amber asked. I look over at her. Mates. She looked a little crestfallen as she put her head down. Well, we found out that you are a werewolf too. We don't know if you're half or even just barely, but you are one. No, I said, shaking my head. There has to be a mistake. I felt restless, so I stood up and unplugged all the wires and IVs that were on me. I was still wearing the jeans I had despite there being bloodstains on them, but my shirt was gone and I had a large gauze wrapped around my side. The right side hurt like mad and I knew that's where I had taken the bullet. I walked over to the large floor-to-ceiling window next to my bed. Dawn had just come, and the sun was peeking above the mountains, causing the clouds to look pink. It was making the land look as surreal as the moment I was in now. How long have I been here? I asked. For days? I heard Christine respond. I groaned, looking over at them. My parents are going to kill me. Adam shook his head, amusement flickering in his eyes. They know, Alex. I don't know why they haven't told you yet, but they've known everything. Where are they? They went home a few hours ago. They were here most of the night in the past days, but I called them as soon as you woke up. I laid my head against the window. The cool glass pane was helping to alleviate a small headache I had forming. This is all crazy. There is no possible way. Isn't lycanthrope genetic? Why aren't my parents werewolves? We still don't know that. Christine said. Wit. You're an odd case. You're not the first, but it is uncommon. I was quiet for a long while. Alex, Amber asked softly. I felt her place a hand on my shoulder, but I shrugged it off. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked coldly. Izzy looked at her dad helplessly. I growled, grabbed my jacket that lay over the back of the chair next to my bed and walked out of the room. I know I was being heartless, pushing away Amber like that. And part of me knew I would regret those actions later, but this was too much. I just needed some space. No, it wasn't just that. I was pissed. Why was I the only one left in the dark? Even Jack of all people knew. My parents didn't even bother telling me that I was one of the creatures of the night. This beast. Go back to mate. I hear Xavier growl at me. For once, I was fueled by enough anger to keep him from taking over again. Though I'm mad at you too. You of all people could have told me. I snarled at him. Because this is the way you would have reacted. I'm reacting like this because I was freaking attacked by some people trying to kill Amber. Only to find out that I'm some monster. Of course I'm going to act this way. And then he was quiet. Good riddance. I found my parents down in the lobby, walking in, but I shoved past them, ignoring their comments and worries. I let out a low growl. They exchanged a look and followed. They knew I was mad. Thank God. Alex. Wait. Please. I hear Amber calling out for me. I whirled around on her, still growling. What? She flinched a little. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I didn't tell you earlier. I wasn't allowed to. You what? I snapped. You were confused. Were you too short-sighted to think that maybe I wanted to know what I am? Or that maybe the girl that I thought I knew was some freaking beast? She let out a small whimper, taking a step back from me. Quit fucking yelling at her. Xavier howled with anger. Go to hell. The hell? I quipped, not giving a damn. I'm going. I don't need this right now. I told Amber, and turned and walked the other way. Both of my parents shot me disappointing, angry almost looks, but said nothing. Smart. I hopped into the back seat of my mom's Honda, and we drove off. I shoved a last glance of Amber on her knees, looking shocked and hurt, out of my mind. Looking back, I knew I was wrong, but at that moment I couldn't find the mental strength to care. Going back through and editing and reading this, I really just wanted to take out this last part because it's so silly. Like, come on, Alex. You're strong and all, but no true mate could really ignore their instincts like that. But then I'd be lacking the 45 chapters that follow this brief bump in the road, and figured it would be good for what little character development we have. Thanks for reading. K.E.D. Rick Chapter 16, Alex. I woke up the next morning with a throbbing headache. Its name was Xavier. I felt him whining and growling at me. He wanted nothing more than to go to her. Yes, maybe I did act like a complete ass to her. But damn it, what was I supposed to do? She ends up being a creature of the night. My parents don't tell me that I'm one too. And while I'm left in the dark, a hunter comes after us and I was almost killed. How was I supposed to react? Like an alpha. Xavier snorted. Shut up. I'm not an alpha or any of that bull crap. And I'm still pissed at you for not telling me. He was quiet for a moment, but only just. I was waiting for your parents. They knew just as well as that I was. They didn't. I snapped. And you knew they didn't. Now do me a favor and don't talk to me. I just need time to think. And what are you going to do when you see Amber? I didn't respond. This left him even more agitated, and I could feel him just leave. He'll be back later. I walked downstairs to find the kitchen quiet. Usually, my parents were still here, but I was still mad at them. They were mad at me for treating Amber like I did, so we were at a crossroads. My parents. They had explained everything to me, and it came to be even more of a shocker than I had thought. There are werewolves that live all over the world. There are a few vampires and other supernatural creatures, all like the folklore and grim tales that we knew. Unlike most myths, werewolves are just humans that can transform into wolves that tend to be larger than your ordinary wolf. I'm stuck with it now, that I can't change have what we call our inner wolf. It's that wild side of us, as well as that voice that helps most of us. Notice the keyword of most, cause Xavier has been a pain in the ass since I'd met Amber. Of course, you'd know by now that they live in packs with the usual alpha and beta, etc. Then my parents got on the topic of mates. Whatever anger I had must have visibly lessened as they went on, but they even tried smiling a little. Werewolves just like the wild one. Mate for life. Some legends say that we have one true mate in this world, and that our wolf will be drawn to them. That part is true. The part that isn't is the one where they could be anywhere. I think that the fates found a little bit of pity towards us, due to the fact that we've got a load of problems as it is. I say this because we usually find our mates within our geographical range, so someone wouldn't be living in like California and their destined mate in Maine. No, try the so-said wolf in California finding their mate in Oregon or Nevada. That's about as far as they would be. Mate. That was something that struck me. Although I'd hate to say it, Xavier was right. It did explain a lot. A wolf's mate was like a soulmate. Without the other one, they wouldn't find a reason to live. To keep going. That mate to a wolf was their everything. My dad told me that once he heard of an alpha wolf that gave up his whole pack and left, just because his mate had to leave. Apparently, that was a big deal in of itself. The more they explained it, the more it made sense. At one point, I wanted nothing more than to hold Amber in my arms and tell her that I was sorry. Then I remembered how the day had been, how I was the only one left in the dark. Anyhow, it came from my mom's side. Unlike most werewolves, she couldn't shift into a wolf. She still had her inner wolf, but just not enough of the werewolf genes to change. She retold me the story of how my grandfather was adopted and how he had the genetics of a werewolf. My grandmother, on the other hand, wasn't a werewolf. In fact, their mating was one of the few where he was a wolf, and she was a hunter. One tyranny. My dad was also a hunter in his teen years. He stopped when he realized just what he was doing, but all the same, it did explain a lot. Like the other night. The others didn't know why I didn't die or become fatally harmed when hit with a silver bullet. It turns out that I was a complete mix of werewolf and hunter blood. Hunters are either born nor made by the outcome of events. Those that are born tend to have abilities that give them an upper hand against the abilities of a werewolf. Both my father and mother were hunter-born, so I tend to be someone you don't see too often. My dad was telling me that I might have other abilities. The one we know of now is that not only am immune to silver unlike your average wolf, but I can also detoxify it from another wolf if they were ever harmed. But that would include being with another wolf sometime soon as well. Not what I considered being an option. At least, not at the moment. So there you have it. My whole family history's involvement with werewolves and hunters. I'm some mixed breed miracle as well as someone who's been left in the dark because it all. I was walking out the door when I spotted Jack leaning against my Jeep. You knew? I asked, though it came out more as a statement. He nodded, only just a little. I did. I am one, if that's what you wanted to know. And yes, I'm mad at you too. I snorted. Get in line. But I'll throw you a bone. Why are you mad? First, I'm a wolf, not a dog. Second, I'm mad because of the way you treated your mate. I mean, for fuck's sake, man. Here I am, seeing every other wolf around find their mate, only to not find my own. And I watch you treat yours like shit. You weren't, no. I was. I watched as you just stormed past me and then turned down your mate. You were there. Jack let out a deep sigh. Alex, you're still my best friend. When I heard of that incident with the hunter and you getting shot, you can believe that I was there along with everyone else. I rubbed my face in my hands. Sorry, man, it's just been a hell ride. I can understand that. I'm still mad at you about the way you treated Amber, but I'm still here for you. Lucky you. And why didn't you tell me? I asked, ignoring the quip at the end. He shrugged. Your parents told me not to, and so did Amber. You listened to Amber. It was the least I could do for her. I start dating and my girlfriend asks you a favor. Would you do it? I hesitate and then nod. Plus, he continued, I'm a part of her pack. She's the future Luna to my pack, so I didn't have a choice in the matter. What if Adam is the alpha? I asked, trying to connect the dots with what my parents told me last night. Jack nodded. Alpha Adam, as some call him. I just shook my head and got in my Jeep. He hopped in the passenger side, and then looked at me. This is all a lot to take in and get used to. I told him, understandable. We've grown up on it. Well, you've just been thrown into it. You'll get used to it. I hope. I just need some time. He nodded again, and then looked ahead as I pulled out onto the street. There is only one reason why I'm not that mad at you. And what's that? Although you probably hurt Amber a lot more than you know. You didn't outright reject her. What do you mean, reject her? It's something that happens occasionally, although it's quite stupid. Really, it's when you say your name and then says you reject them as your mate. So I might say, I, Jack Alto, reject you, Sadie Kane, as my mate. And that would stop you from being mates, although the second party also has to say it. I shook my head. As awesome as that sounds, I have a sinking hunch that if I ever did that, I would start to die, and not just from Xavier. You would lose him first, your wolf. Then, depending on how strong you are, you'd begin to slowly die. Yes, you Ray kidding. Right. No, he deadpanned. Knowing you, it would take you until you're about 35, give or take. Knowing Amber, I give her until 25. So soon. He scoffs. As hard as she fell for you. Well, let's just say I'm glad you didn't hear her the other night. Or last. I glanced at him for a second before turning my eyes back to the road. He was scrolling through his Twitter feed. She's lost you twice now. First, we thought you would be dead from the silver bullet. Then you just walk out on her like that. Can we please stop talking about this? I ask. I still don't know what I feel towards her. And to top it off, knowing some of this stuff is just complicating everything. She's still the same girl you fell for last week. I growled at him. Maybe or maybe not. Hell, oh hell. I don't even know who I am anymore. Jack stuck his phone in his pocket and crossed his arms. Fine. I'll drop it. Good luck when you see her today. Shit. Something I noticed when I walked into school. Well, I noticed this after the other night, but now I'm really seeing it. I can tell who in the hallways is human, while who isn't. I'm surprised that it's pretty even. Something else I noticed was that as I walked towards my locker, everyone acts like the way I saw some of the wolves act towards Adam. Respect, as well as admiration. The rest. Well, let's just say that rumor got around about how I treated Amber. It hurt, even more, when I reached my locker. I hadn't noticed before, but Amber's locker was only one away from mine. It seemed that the fates were against me today as well, for no one used that locker. For or against me. The fates will ever be. Never just one. I keep focused on grabbing my textbooks when she opens her. Xavier takes over for just a moment before I can stop him. At that moment, he glanced over at her. She has the hood on her pale, blue hoodie pulled up, and underneath I can see that she doesn't look the best. Who am I kidding? She looked like shit. Her eyes were swollen and red, while her lips looked like they'd been turned into a permanent frown. Hell, it even looked like she was still crying. I hated seeing her like that. It pissed me off even more so knowing that I was the cause of it. I nearly gave in, turning to her. I opened my mouth to say something. Anything, really, before I got the chance. She slammed her locker and ran off. I looked at my schedule, which I kept taped to the inside of my locker, and sighed. I only had one class without her today. Great, just great. This is going to be a long day. Thank you all so much for joining me on this dangerous werewolf journey. I hope you had your hearts pumping and your minds racing. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and come back for more exciting and dangerous tales. Until next time, stay safe and keep that adventurous spirit alive.